Thanks for joining. The purpose of this video is to discuss 5G. If you've been shopping for a new mobile device, you may have noticed they are all on this new 5G network. So this video will discuss what that means, what's so great about it, and put to bed some of the misinformation that is going on about what the 5G network could do. To start off, what does 5G mean? Well, in simplistic terms, 5G just means we are now on the fifth generation of a mobile network. If we go back in time, the 1G or the first mobile network were those great big brick phones with long antennas that we used to carry around. Think Miami Vice. It was an analog network and it just allowed for phone calls to be made. The second generation was when text messaging first came out. So when we were able to send text messages along with our phone calls, you'd have to type them out using the number keys and it would take a long time. That would be the second generation of mobile network. 3G is when our devices started having the internet on them. So think when Blackberries came out and were popular. You could send messages, you could reply to emails, you could look things up on websites. That's the example of the 3G network. 4G is when we were able to do a lot more with our devices. Think when the iPhone came out, the smartphones with, we'd be sending videos and playing games and using GPS on our devices. This is all part of the 4G network. And finally, the newest network that we have now is 5G. Where we'll see the most benefits for 5G is just the speed at which it runs. 5G is about 100 times faster than a 4G connection. You can download up to about 10 gigabytes a second, where it's the fastest. So you're going to be able to retrieve information, watch big files, watch videos in 4K very fast. Another big improvement is what's called latency. Latency is the time between you sending out a request or a question and the network processing that information and getting it back to you. It's almost non-existent now on a 5G network. Just like if you Google something at home, the answer gets spit out right away. On a 4G network, you would have to think about it. You'd be waiting around for it to load the answer. That doesn't happen on a 5G network anymore. The 5G network is also much greater expanded than the 4G network. So coverage, especially in rural areas, is going to be much, much better. All devices are going to benefit from 5G because the 5G network is able to accommodate so many more connections than the 4G network did. So on a 4G network, in about a square kilometer, like the slide says, you could have about 4,000 devices connected at once and be processing at full speed. Any more devices than that, and the network does slow down. And if you've ever used your cell phone in downtown Toronto trying to get some information, you'll notice that it can get quite slow with so many devices connected. On 5G, you can have a million devices connected in the same amount of space. So its ability to handle requests is significantly better. And as more and more of our world gets connected to the internet, our cars, our homes, there's so many more connections being made, and the 5G network is there to accommodate that. You definitely need a 5G capable phone to access 5G network. Now, some less expensive cell phone plans are not currently hooked up to the 5G network. We use some of the less expensive options out there for, say, my son's phone, and it's still working on the 4G network. Your 4G phone will continue to work. You'll continue to be able to access the internet, but to take advantage of the speed of 5G, you will need a 5G capable device. When I've spoken to people about the network upgrade, there's been a lot of concerns raised. Um, the amount of devices being connected, well, there's all these radio waves flying around. Are these going to harm us? What is this doing to our bodies? The radio wave band used by 5G or any mobile network is called non-ionizing. And the science here is too complicated for me. But essentially, these waves are not powerful enough to harm human beings. You can't cause any sort of cellular damage with these rays or with these waves. Now, if you look at the chart, you might notice that microwaves and 5G waves share kind of the same piece of this wave band. And we certainly know microwaves can damage people. Well, people that are much smarter than me, and this is coming from legitimate research. This isn't coming from the phone companies who are selling these products. This is independent research being done in the United Kingdom. Says that the levels of 5G waves are so low that no detectable increase in temperature has been recorded when people are interacting with these waves. So, long story short, the risk to human beings for having the 5G network up and running and being around our phones is not something we really need to worry about. You may have seen these in and around cities or on telephone poles. The radio towers that the 5G network utilizes are much closer to the ground than the traditional 4G network. 4G towers were way up stories above our heads, whereas 5G towers are 8 to 10 feet off the ground. So we're much closer to these towers, and there's a lot of information buzzing around. Is this a safety concern? Again, the answer is no. Uh, because there are so many more 5G towers to handle the network, each tower runs at a much lower power rating. So radiation exposure is actually lower for humans based on the new 5G network being installed. So overall, 5G is faster, it's easier to connect to, it expands to areas that haven't been able to get cell phone service in the past, and it is safer from a radiation standpoint than the traditional 4G network. If you are unsure if your current cell phone is on the 5G network, just look up at the top of the screen where the little Wi-Fi logo is and the battery symbol is. If you are on a 5G network, 5G will appear beside the battery logo. If you're on the previous generation or a 4G network, it'll either say 4 or 4 LTE, something like that. There is nothing wrong with being on the 4G network to save a little money right now. I hope you found this video interesting, and as always, thanks for watching.